Chicago, Illinois, the greatest city in the entire world, known for its food, people, and outstanding accomplishments. Yet as of late, Chicago has become more associated with violence and scandal. Accused of making false claims of a racially motivated attack, Jussie Smollett stands by claims of no wrongdoing. Today, we'll examine a just claim of an unprovoked, violent, racially motivated attack on a black man in Chicago. A child, really. 13-year-old Leonard Clark, brutalized by older teens. And we'll also examine the lackluster efforts aimed at convicting the perpetrators of this crime. This 12-lane expressway divides the middle-class Irish, Italian, Lithuanian, center of mob activity neighborhood of Bridgeport to the left from the historic working-class black neighborhood of Bronzeville to the right. It is an 18-minute bike ride between the two neighborhoods. It is March 21st, 1997, and 13-year-old Leonard Clark is headed to Bridgeport to avoid paying a 25-cent fee to put air in his bike tire. He was leaving from his apartment in Stateway Gardens. Clark is accompanied by Cleavon Nicholson. After filling the tire, Clark and Nicholson play football for 2 hours with 3 neighborhood kids. Then they accompany those kids home to see if the kids can continue to play. Only the older of the children could stay out. Now a trio, the third child accompanies Clark and Nicholson down the street on foot while Nicholson and Clark continue to ride their bikes. Further down the street, they become surrounded by the defendants. Caruso hit Nicholson and knocked him off his bike, according to Nicholson's statement to the police. One of the assailants told Caruso not to hit Nicholson because he was too little, to which Caruso responded, "Fuck this N-word." One of the attackers hit Clark so hard, his head slammed against the brick wall and he fell. Clark got back up and ran. Clark ran east on 33rd toward Princeton and turned north. Nicholson ran south. He looked back to see Clark being chased. Other Alma boys, the name of the group that the teenagers called themselves, threw a bottle at the older youth that had been with Nicholson and Clark. Nicholson ran until he was at the 35th Street L, the neutral point between the two neighborhoods. He waited for Clark. Clark never showed. Clark was found beaten, unconscious, on the sidewalk of 33rd and Preston, 30 yards away from the entrance of Jimbo's. Clark's assailants headed to a party immediately after the beating. Some of the other Alma boys were walking home when they were approached by police searching for clues in the earlier Clark beating. One of the men questioned gave the name of the 3 attackers. Nicholson and the other youth that had been with Nicholson and Clark picked the attackers out of a lineup. The trio was charged with attempted murder, aggravated battery, and a hate crime. Although Clark suffers massive head injury and goes into a coma, he doesn't die. The Alma boys. The defendants, Frank Caruso Jr., Michael Kwidzinski, and Victor Jassis, were all students at De La Salle Academy. The Alma boys, named after their neighborhood park, The Armor Boys' table at De La Salle was headed by Caruso. It was remarked by an outside student that the other Armor Boys gave Caruso whatever it was that he wanted and treated him like he was Don Corleone or something. Whether it was blocking the school's entrance to the library and not allowing other students to enter, or simply wreaking havoc in Armor Square, the Armor Boys basically operated just like a gang, much like the Irish Hamburg Athletic Club. The growing black population on Chicago's South Side, in close proximity to Irish neighborhoods, led to competition among the two groups for housing and jobs. The city's first immigrants to settle were Irish, and they had a political strength due to the police being Irish. So when ethnic white gangs attacked blacks, little to nothing was done about it. Bridgeport was an example of Irish territory. It was west of Chicago's Black Belt. Chicago's Black Belt was a chain of South Side neighborhoods where 75% of the city's black population resided. Ethnic groups were territorial and patrolled their neighborhood boundaries against all other ethnic groups, especially blacks. One such group was the Hamburg Athletic Club, with 17-year-old Richard J. Daley, who went on to become the mayor of Chicago for 21 years, was an admitted member of. On July 27, 1919, the tensions between white and blacks erupted in a week-long carnage of murders and anarchy. A white man on a segregated black beach was throwing rocks at swimmers, which resulted in the drowning death of Eugene Williams. When a white officer failed to arrest the white man and instead arrested a black man, objections to the arrest were met by violence by whites, and at one point a mob had to be held off from attacking patients at Providence Hospital, which was a predominantly black hospital. Richard DeSantis, one of only two people who actually saw the attack. The trial had to be postponed to look for DeSantis, who was allegedly the son of a mob figure. 7 months later, DeSantis resurfaced, and his lawyer said he had been coerced by police into implicating his friends. Michael Cutler was shot to death after dropping off friends. The shooting was ruled unrelated to the beating, despite the fact that the two gunmen yelled out, "This is a robbery," yet only took an inexpensive class ring, like mobsters do, to prove that someone has been hit. Tom Simpson gave police a detailed account of the attack immediately after the attack, but told the jury over 100 times that he had forgot what had happened. When it was all said and done, two defendants were offered a plea deal. They pled guilty to battery and got 300 hours of community service for a beating that left Clark in a coma for 2 weeks. Caruso was sentenced to 8 years. So if Chicago politics has taught us anything, it has taught us that if you lie about being involved in a racially motivated attack, you will lose your job and everything, as well you should. But if you actually take part in racially motivated attacks, well, then you can be the mayor of Chicago.